Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out the GitGud Course. Instead of just understanding concepts, you'll learn how to implement them directly into your driving. What makes it effective is the approach and practical drills. Together, we're gonna focus on breaking down those complex concepts into small digestible bits that are simple to understand. Everything from the course was tested and refined during the years in coaching sessions, so what I ended up with was the ones that I saw were the most effective. Let's elevate your racing skills together. Now for the track guide. For turn 1, what I'm using as a reference for braking is this 100 board in front, but near the 100 you also have a white line. So when approaching, I'm looking at the 100, but as I get closer and closer to the corner, I just look at this white line. And what's important here is you want to brake earlier than you think. So you can get away with braking a bit closer to the 50, but the car is not going to be stable. So what I'm looking for in this corner is to brake and hold the brakes for longer, but in a lower percentages, so that the car will be more stable, because it won't be a sudden weight transfer. So you want the platform of the car stable. Funny enough, this lap with this corner wasn't the best one, so it's not a very good example, but I thought to include it just because I can showcase the error, because it's a very common mistake. So my goal right here was to hold the brakes a bit longer, but because I brake just a bit later, like right now, I have to brake a bit harder. So this makes my corner more difficult, and while going into this corner, I'm looking to apex in the middle of this yellow sausage curve. Right now I take it mostly in the beginning, so because I take this early apex, I have to let go of the throttle. I have to delay my throttle application, because otherwise I know at this point if I'm gonna put the throttle down, I will just go wide. So because of that, what I'm doing is I have this small gap and then I put the throttle back on. So what I would suggest is braking a bit earlier and hold it a bit for longer. It will give you more grip and the car will be more stable. You'll be able to put the power just a bit earlier, and as a result I lose 1.5 tenths into this section. So easy to correct, but for sure this is one of the trickiest corners, because you really have to take a later apex here. In terms of track usages, you have to put your left tires on the white line. If you go just a bit more on the left, it's going to be an off track. Very easy to pick an off track here. Now this corner is flat out. What's important here is that you want to stay very close to this sausage curve. If you will miss it even by a few, like even half a meter, if you miss it, you will put on a wider line on the exit and you will have to let go of the throttle a bit earlier. So super important here, even though it's a easy corner, it's a flat out corner, you have to look more at the yellow sausage curve. So you have to put your vision here, because the car will go wherever you look. So quite important. Now for this corner here, my braking reference is not a visual one here, but you can use this white line on the left side. You can use that. What I would recommend instead is to brake whenever you feel you have the steering wheel straight and your car is positioned to the left side near the curb. You don't want to brake on this curb. This curb will be bumpy, same as turn 1. You don't want to use the curb while approaching turn 1, just because you will be less efficient under braking. The tire will go up and down, and because of that you won't make contact with the tarmac at all times. It will also feel unnatural whenever you will steer out of the curb, because you will feel the height of the curb in your steering wheel, and it's gonna make your turning point a bit lazier. So instead, use the white line, don't brake on the curb, and as a reference I would recommend bring the car all the way to the left. This is gonna be easy to do if you take the last corner with the proper speed. The car will naturally arrive at this point, and whenever you have the steering wheel straight, then apply the brakes, because you want to brake with the steering wheel straight. You don't want to brake and have a slight angle. It's not going to be efficient. Again, a bit of the grip will be used for that slight angle, and the rest of it for the braking. You want to use all of it for the braking. So keeping the car straight, you can use the white line on the left as a reference for braking, but it's going to be more consistent to do it on feel when the steering wheel is straight. And while turning into this corner, super important to have a late apex. So we can see the yellow curb in the beginning. You don't want to take it in the beginning. It's like turn 1. you have to take it in the middle of the corner. So with a trail brake in second gear, I'm trying to apex as late as I can. Like right now I'm at the end of the yellow sausage curve, which I think it's a good apex point. I'm a bit too aggressive, like pushing the car all the way to the left. I think you can push it to the left, but not this much. Like this much, you're gonna use the tires more. So for qualifying this can work, but for a race stream, I would recommend having the car just a bit more towards the right. You're still gonna be overall on the left side. You don't want to have your car in the center of the track because you can easily reposition, but hitting the curb on the left side with your left tires is gonna be a bit too much for a race stream. So don't use all the track like that in a race, use it just in quali. And now repositioning the car, I'm doing a small lift here just to gain a bit of grip, but you don't want to, if you're gonna do here a small lift, you don't want to overdo it. Like you want to find the minimum amount of lift because the car will point very quickly. This car is snappy in responding to your inputs. So the common mistake would be here to do like a 25% lift where you can get away with 20, you know? So cutting all the way here is gonna be critical. You have to cut all the way to the grass because otherwise you will use more steering angle if you're not cutting like that on the exit. So the car will be oversteery here for you if you don't cut enough there and if you don't do the required lift. It's possible to take that corner flat out if you prepare it a bit better, if you don't go all the way to the left, but in general you don't really want to prepare it that much because it's quite easy to take it almost flat, so it won't make a huge difference. Now we go into this low speed corner. What's important here to note is that we have a downhill braking zone, and because we have a downhill braking zone, if we're gonna brake too hard, all the weight is gonna be on the front end of the car, on the nose, and the rear is gonna be so loose, and as a result the braking is not gonna be efficient at all. You want to brake a bit with the rear tires as well. So because it's a downhill braking zone, you want to brake a bit earlier and a bit softer. If you brake earlier, but because it's a downhill braking zone, you'll also offset the way that your brake, like the advantage that you would gain by braking later in a normal zone, because it's an elevation zone, you will have also more speed. So you have to think a bit differently about this corner. You have to brake earlier than you think and softer, so the car will be balanced. We don't want to have all the weight on the front end of the car because we can go to the other extreme in which the front end is overloaded, and whenever we turn we don't have enough grip into the front tires. So what I'm using here for reference for braking are those cones on the left. The moment that I don't see them anymore, I'm applying the brakes, and again you will trail brake and apex as late as you can here in the middle of this curve on the left side. Later is gonna be better because you will put the power down nice and confidently. This was a very good corner for me, so try to go 0-100% throttle super quickly. If you find that you go all the way to the outside or you have to modulate your throttle, you can't go straight up as in this telemetry trace, then you're taking the apex too early. You have to turn later. Now going into this corner right here, this can be a flat out corner if you do it properly. So I do here a lift. You can do it flat out, but you have to nail the turning point. The turning point, you're gonna do it on feel. I want you to look on this yellow sausage curb. You have to look at the yellow sausage curb and the car will naturally drift there. The moment that you see it, you're gonna apply some steering angle to turn. Now here, what's important, you want to brake early. You don't want to brake late, especially if you're taking it almost flat and you're carrying a lot of speed. The braking point here is gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be with a bit of steering angle. You don't have enough time to straighten up the wheel and then brake in a straight line and then turn unless you go a bit slower in the previous corner. So it can depend. You can sacrifice a bit the fast one, like dropping the throttle just enough so that you'll have just enough less speed here so you can brake in a straight line, or you can go a bit harder and manage the balance of the car with a bit of steering lock applied. If you're gonna do what I'm doing here, I would recommend increasing the brake bias so the car will be a bit more stable, because here it's very easy to spin the car, especially while you're gonna turn in. The rears are gonna be not in the right window, so it's super easy to spin the car. Right here, I'm not doing a change to the brake bias. I was just driving with the same brake bias in all the corners, but if I would race and I would race more seriously, I will increase the brake bias if I would keep the same approach with going almost flat out in the corner or a small lift. But if you're doing a bigger lift, you can leave the brake bias as it is. You will have time to straighten up the wheel, and the moment that the car is straightened, you're gonna apply the brakes. You can also use this white line on the left side, but I think like trying to straighten up the wheel will force yourself to be a bit quicker in your inputs as well, so I think it's gonna be better. In terms of braking, I'm using a bit this curb to open up. You don't have to do it. I'm using it just because I'm not braking very hard, so it doesn't unbalance the car that much. But if you feel like this corner is already difficult for you, don't use it at all. You have to trail brake and get into the middle of this yellow sausage curb. You see it's the same theme, and the moment that you're at the sausage curb, you're gonna put the power down in third gear using all this exit on the left side. Is gonna give you a good exit. Now for the next corner, this is a blind corner. What I'm doing here is I'm looking at this 50-meter board on the left side, and whenever I'm almost at the 50, but just a bit earlier, but I look at the 50 still, and I'm pointing the car straight, I'm applying the brakes. I think I brake too much into this corner like this. You can get away with a bit less brakes just because you want to be all the way to the left side. Like if you touch the white line on the outside part, you will have a much better run into the next corner and you will have a better exit. So here it's just about shooting the car deep, trail braking longer, so still trailing in third gear, and then very late on this apex putting the power down like that and using the curb on the left. You can use more the curb on the left, that's gonna be fine because you have enough time to reposition for the next corner. In the next corner, super important, use this curb. You can use this curb while braking. You can put like 20-30% of the right tires on it and you will hear it while you take this corner because you will open up while not risking that much. This curb is a bit different than the other curbs. It's not that tall, so if you brake on it, you will feel that the car can handle it. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm using a bit the curb and I'm trying to apex as late as I can in the middle of this yellow sausage curb. Again, this is the thing that you have to focus. This kind of apexes are gonna make your life a lot easier on this track. Putting the power down immediately at the apex, tracking all the way to the right side. I think that's the best line. You don't have to go to the middle of the track. You have to shoot your car all the way to the outside so you know you carry a lot of speed, because repositioning for the next corner is gonna be easy. You just want to go a bit more in the center left and then apply the brakes. Not ideal for me because the car now drifts a bit more than I wanted. So I should have braked just a bit higher in percentages and hold it for less time, but it is what it is. And now, so basically you're gonna treat this as a double apex corner. You want to apex closely, then track out a bit wider and then apex again, but I tracked out a bit too wide in the first one. And for this corner, in order to squeeze as much as you can, turning point for me, I'm doing mostly on feel, but if you want a reference, is this white part of the curve, the triangle on the left side. And then you're gonna turn and you want to stay very tight here, like kissing the inside curve and not tracking out to the left side. You will scrub more speed, so because this leads to a huge straight from now on, the least amount of steering angle that you're gonna use is gonna give you the most lap time. Even if you use like 5-10 degrees steering angle more, it's gonna cost you like half a tenth or maybe even 1/10. So minimizing the steering angle, it's key. And in short, that's a track guide for Portimao with SF23. If you like my style, if you find that this is helpful, I released a sim racing course. I think it's one of the best in terms of how to put a theory into practice. I'm very direct in the course and I think you will learn a lot. So if you're interested, go check it out, gitgoodracing.com. And until next time, bye bye.